The Battle of Stalingrad was a turning point in World War II, not only for its strategic implications but also for the staggering losses suffered by both sides. Here's a detailed look at the key events, with a focus on the human cost. 1. Prelude and initial German offensive, August 23 to September 12, 1942. 1. August 23, 1942, the German Sixth Army, led by General Friedrich Paulus, began its assault on Stalingrad. 1. The Germans aimed to capture the city as part of their broader strategy to secure the southern Soviet Union. 2. Early September 1942, the German offensive quickly reached the outskirts of Stalingrad, and heavy bombardments devastated the city. 2. The German advance initially faced less resistance due to the Soviet forces' preparation for urban combat. 2. Soviet resistance and urban warfare, September 13 to November 18, 1942. 1. September 13, 1942, German troops entered Stalingrad, facing intense Soviet resistance. 1. The battle transformed into brutal urban warfare, with both sides fighting fiercely over key locations. 2. October 1942, Soviet defenders, under General Vasily Chuikov, engaged in house-to-house fighting. 2. The Soviet losses were staggering. Estimates suggest that by early November, the Soviet casualties, dead, wounded, or missing, in and around Stalingrad had reached around 200,000. 3. Soviet counteroffensive and encirclement, November 19 to December 31, 1942. 1. November 19, 1942, the Soviet Union launched Operation Uranus, encircling the German Sixth Army by attacking the weaker Romanian and Hungarian forces on the flanks. 1. This operation marked a critical shift in the battle. 2. November 23, 1942, Soviet forces completed the encirclement of German troops, trapping them inside Stalingrad. 2. The encircled German forces, including the Sixth Army and parts of the 4th Panzer Army, faced severe shortages of supplies and reinforcements. 4. German attempts to break out and Soviet stranglehold, January 1 to January 17, 1943. 1. January 1, 1943, German attempts to break out of the encirclement, including resupply efforts and counterattacks, failed to alleviate the dire situation. 2. January 10, 1943, the Soviets launched a final offensive to close in on the German positions. 2. By this point, Soviet casualties had exceeded 500,000, including both military personnel and civilians. 5. Surrender and aftermath, January 18 to February 2, 1943. 1. January 18, 1943, the Germans made one last attempt to escape, but were met with overwhelming Soviet resistance. 1. Field Marshal Paulus was promoted in a desperate bid to persuade him to continue fighting. 2. February 2, 1943, the German Sixth Army formally surrendered. 2. The battle concluded with approximately 91,000 German troops being taken prisoner, out of an initial force of around 300,000. 2. German casualties, including those killed, wounded, or captured, numbered around 300,000. Impact and significance. 1. Casualties. The Battle of Stalingrad was one of the deadliest confrontations of the war. 1. Soviet casualties ranged between 1.2 and 1.5 million, including soldiers and civilians. 1. In contrast, German losses, including dead, wounded, and captured, were approximately 300,000. 2. Strategic consequences. The defeat at Stalingrad marked the beginning of a Soviet offensive that would eventually push German forces back and lead to the liberation of Eastern Europe. 3. Psychological impact. The Soviet victory at Stalingrad was a major morale boost for the USSR and a critical blow to Nazi Germany, signaling a shift in the momentum of the war. The Battle of Stalingrad remains a stark example of the human cost of war, highlighting the immense sacrifices made by the Soviet Union.